Hi, everyone. You are moving along with me. Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. Yes, we are now more than halfway done with the 13 principles on how we treat each other. I am Dr. Vernita, and I want to say thank you already before we even jump into it, that you've made it this far. If you haven't, and this is your first video, welcome. You can go back and watch the series. Um, we are on number 8, the principles on how we treat each other. I am Dr. Vernita, CEO and founder of Glenn White Global Solutions, home of Empowered Educators Academy, where we are on a mission to 1, raise the vibration of the education profession, 2, transform the learning experience of 1 billion students and adults, and 3, heal the nation through education. And one way to start doing that is to build the foundation of how we treat each other. And it really starts with us, in ourselves, in our core, we, us, inside. It really starts here. You will hear me talk about the intersection between personal and professional lives, because I've noticed over the years, people do this in general, but especially for educators, where we separate personal and professional, and we keep this wall up. But now that we're seeing what is happening in society, is really causing us to break those walls down, and to really build the relationships. And before we can build those relationships, we have to know how to treat ourselves, definitely treat ourselves, and then treat other people. So we're going to talk about the 8th principle, which is identify assumptions and biases. Yes, identify them. There are subtle differences between those two words that I won't get into here, but you remember when we talked about listening deeply, suspending judgment, respecting silence, all of that. So let me back up. You can use these principles individually. They're meant to build upon each other to create an environment, because the ultimate goal is to create an hospitable and accountable community. And you want an environment to where people feel comfortable talking and sharing, and in difficult situations, because the ultimate goal is to resolve a problem, right? To resolve a problem and have the conversations to do that, and to grow, because nothing changes until we grow. So I said all that to, now we have to identify our assumptions and our biases. We all have them. And I don't know why people think it's a bad thing to have them. We all have them. It could be as simple as you don't like the color red. So if someone has the color red on and you're like, you just don't want to deal with them. Subconsciously, right? I don't know. Something may have happened to you and the color red triggers you. I don't know. But we all have them. The key is, how do we manage them, and what do we do with them? And acknowledge the fact that we have them. A lot of times things aren't moving forward because we don't acknowledge. We use things like, I'm colorblind, all lives matter. Why do we have to, single certain lives out? But let me digress. But seriously, why do we think the way we think, especially about certain people? How does this relate to the principles on how we treat each other as a norm? So, do you ever ask yourself, why does someone irritate you, or you get turned off by when they get ready to speak, or if you're speaking to a group of people or to a certain person, do you feel that your words or your tone or something may change? And this is what I'm talking about. Do you have this bias, maybe against women, if you are a man, or if you are a woman, maybe against younger women? And every time a younger woman stands up, you just immediately shut down. That's part of, that judgment component, but you're not really listening fully, because it's like, what does she have to tell me? Or if you're a man, and you're talking to, maybe about STEM education, but you're noticing that majority of the audience are women, and you just give this blasé speech, or you don't put your all into it because you feel like the women aren't capable of being in those fields. If you're talking to a person of color, do you feel the need to change your speech because you don't think like maybe they'll understand what you're saying? Or if you're talking to a person with disabilities, do you overreact? Or if they are in a wheelchair and you start speaking louder, they're just in a wheelchair, they can hear. So things like that, you have to identify those when you're in conversations with people and how you interact. And that causes you to be really aware of yourself. It takes a lot of you doing a lot of personal work, and bringing up those things that may be invisible to you to the visible space. I know in my workshops that I've done with people, especially educators, and I've done some with administrators, and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought this way about like a certain person or a certain group of people. And it was like, yeah, and it comes off in your speech, in how you treat people. And this goes the same class-wise. Like if you're in a group of people that look like you on the outside, but there are a lot of this, and you make the assumptions that, well, we all look the same, so we have the same experiences, but you miss that invisible part where there are a lot of differences, and you talk at people like this, like they're supposed to be where you are, really with the economics, socioeconomic status, the class, just because we all may look alike, we may be at all different levels. And if you're talking to me from like, oh, everyone should be able to invest this, or everyone should be able to spend this, or whatever the case may be, you may be leaving people out. So that part right there, it really takes some work. And I want to say this, and this is what I told my students when I work with them on identifying their assumptions and biases, and teachers and administrators, anyone I really come across with, I'm not saying that you're wrong for having these thoughts, because those thoughts are things that we've been born with, ingrained with. A lot of them are subconscious, like we have no idea, and we won't know until we're placed in certain situations. That's when they come up. Those are opportunities to grow. It doesn't make you a bad person if you had this thought about someone and maybe you responded that way. But once you've gotten around that person and opened your mind up, now the part is, what do you do about that? Once you realize that they are human just like you, but then if you continue to treat that person a certain way based on the assumptions and the biases you have that are no longer unconscious, but now they're conscious, now you are at fault. That's the part I think a lot of people miss. Having the biases is not the bad part. It's what we do with that and how we manage. And the reason why this is important, especially in conversations when we're talking with people, and really in meetings where it can get heated, whatever is subconscious, whatever you've been thinking subconsciously and you haven't taken the time to explore, it will eventually come out of your mouth consciously. You heard those like news reporters getting fired for saying certain things, especially about people of color. That's because that's what they do in their personal lives. That's what they do at home. That's the way they talk in their personal lives. And it just so happened to come up that time at work. This is why it's important to keep your professional and your personal life, together. Like I told you, I used to be the one to separate it, but you can't do that, especially when we're moving forward and creating a space for all people to feel welcome. And remember, we're creating this community in this environment, especially in our education profession. We can't go home and have these certain conversations about certain people and then come back to work like, oh yeah, I believe everyone should have opportunities, this, that, and the other. Because somewhere the lines are going to get blurred and personal is going to jump in and your true colors are going to show. So yeah, that was a little heavy. I'm not going to apologize, because these are the conversations we need to have, especially if we're going to create these environments, right? So, shake yourself off, again, work on it. I do invite you to just write down some things, some biases that you may have, or some assumptions about certain people. Start with that work. Why do you have this energy towards, you know, a certain person? Is it because they're a person of color? Is it because they're white? Is it because they have a disability, a visible one that you can see? Is it because they are in a certain class socially? You know, whatever the case may be, just write it out and then ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Yeah, some work on us, right? All right, so again, we are moving along. If you have not done so, I invite you to go to my Instagram, Dr. Vernita Glenn White, and like what you see over there. Like my fan page, Dr. Vernita Glenn White on Facebook and YouTube. I'll probably start transitioning these over so I can just put them out there. You know, you want to take up space in the online world. All right, so I am Dr. B. Thank you so much for listening and watching with me. I will catch you next time as we continue with the 13 principles on how we treat each other. Bye.